rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin ya rabbal alameen. Today's topic is slightly complicated. It's a topic that Allah talks about in multiple places in the Quran. And the reason that I'm calling it complicated is because the idea that Allah portrays through these multiple places in the Quran needs to be all summed up into one for us to really understand the message that Allah is giving us. The topic in question is, what should our relationship with Allah look like? What should it be? What is it actually? How does Allah portray it in the Quran? How did Allah design it? How did Allah make it? The reason that we have confusion about this is because of the fact that it's been covered in multiple places in the Quran. And wherever Allah goes into this topic, He really digs deep into it. But they seem kind of unrelated. They seem like He's talking about different things. He's talking about different angles of the same thing. And if you remember, like 2 lectures ago, I was talking about hikmah, and how hikmah comes from you actually looking up all of these, multiple ayats coming down about the same topic, collecting them together, and kind of summing up the message that Allah is giving us through all of these ayat into one compiled message. Like, combine the pieces together like a jigsaw puzzle, and it forms the picture that Allah is actually giving us. Our relationship with Allah, if we begin to just, talk about what we feel, most of us actually, if not all of us, feel is, Allah is there. He's in our minds. We know that He's there. He's our Rabb. He created us. But in our daily lives, as we go through our daily activities, and we go through the day, the week, the months, the years, are we really cognizant of Him in everything that we do? Not really, right? And we have to be honest in that regard, that we don't think about Allah every time we need to, as much as we need to, the remembrance that needs to be there. So what Allah says in various places in the Quran, and Allah brings this up in various ways, He says that, look, your life is not designed to be happy, or not designed to be, fair or smooth in any way. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to convey the wrong message. I'm trying to kind of, even in my mind, I'm trying to compile everything together. And when it comes out, it doesn't always, sound right. But bear with me as I try to kind of navigate through this complicated issue. So Allah says that I have created you in exhaustive labor. Qabad. That's what He says in one surah in the juz number 30. He says, I've created your life in exhaustive labor. And if you look into that word qabad, it can mean turmoil, it can mean exhaustive labor, it can mean continuous, hardship flowing over you, one after the other, like a wave that hits you, and then a wave on top of that, and a wave on top of that, that can plummet you into darkness. Literally. In other places in the Quran, Allah has said that I've made you weak, I've made you dependent, I've made you look for things that are not there, and the worldly life can be confusing. It's Allah. There's a word that I forget, but it literally means, you'll be confounded when you see the world around you. The world around you can actually confuse you in ways that will lead you away from Allah, that will lead you away from the truth. When you compile all of that together, and this is just an introduction even to the topic, when you compile all of that together, what message comes out is that the worldly life, the life of this world, for a believer, is not meant to be a walk in the park. It's not, I believe in Allah, Allah is on my side, so He should be helping me through everything. He should be giving me the best. He should be, I should be the one who deserves to get the best car, the best house, the best job, best things happening to me. It's just not how Allah designed it. It's not. On the contrary, what we see is that the deeper our belief becomes in Allah, the harder sometimes our life can become. And Allah does actually point this out, and it's through historical accounts in Islam will show you that, you know, the deeper, the more iman you have, the more belief you accumulate in Allah and you gain in Allah, your life can start to get pretty hard. And I've seen people complain about this. So I'm a good person and I pray and I read the Quran, and bad things happen to me. Bad things, and it didn't happen before when I didn't pray or when I didn't recite the Quran as much. Now that I've really started to turn back to Allah, I don't know what's happening. Is Allah, is He angry with me? Is it not what I'm doing? Is it not working? Am I not doing it the right way? So on and so forth. And like Allah says, that the worldly life can confuse you. And even this, if we don't really understand what Allah has told us in this beautiful book of His, then getting misguided or being misled or, you know, falling into ideas that are not actually correct can be very, very easy. So our relationship with Allah, like I was saying, is Allah says that one of the ayahs that I talked about a few days ago was Allah saying, right at the beginning of a surah, saying that I will test you. That's just what your life is going to be. If you say you believe, when you say amanu, amanta, then your life is going to turn into a trial. I'm going to test you because I've created this life in order to make sure that when you say you believe, you are actually, you mean it. You know, you understand the depth of the meaning of believing in Allah. And you can let go, you can surrender. In fact, you know, many of us think that Islam, the word Islam means peace. Islam doesn't actually mean peace. Yes, a part of it can mean peace. Islam actually means surrendering. Surrendering to who? Surrendering to what? Surrendering to Allah. And when you surrender to somebody, to something, you give everything you have to it or to that person or being. So when we say we surrender to Allah, Islam is surrendering to Allah, it means that you put your complete trust, your complete faith, your future, your fears, your hopes, everything now is in the hands of Allah. And you understand that good and bad, you know, trial or no, sun and shine or storm, whatever is happening in your life, all of that is meant to lead you to the end goal, which is meeting with Allah and gaining His Jannah. We fail to understand that, but Allah says that very, very clearly in the Quran. But then, to handle all this, yes, our relationship with Allah is hard. He's going to test us. He's going to put us through trials that we cannot imagine, that we'll start to wonder, where is the help of Allah? When is it going to come? But then, has He given us tools? Yes, He has. And in a place in the Quran, this is Surah Ash-Shams, where Allah says right at the end that He swears by various things in this surah. And then right at the end, He swears by the nafs. And the nafs can be actually translated and understood as not only your heart, your soul, but also your body. Allah uses the word nafs to mean body as well. In one surah where Allah is talking about where Musa alayhi salam killed a person in an attempt to save an Israelite, he used the word nafs to indicate towards the body. So the nafs can mean the qalb, the heart. It can also mean body. And Allah talks about the nafs. And this entire surah is actually illuminating the fact of what we have inside us, the strength that Allah gave inside of us. But more importantly, Allah says right at the end, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Allah says that I have inspired the nafs, the heart, the inside of a person, to understand the difference between fujur, which can literally be translated as sin, bad, kufur, and taqwa, which we understand to be fear of Allah or being cognizant of Allah. And in this entire surah, Allah talks about opposites. He talks about the sun, then he talks about the moon, he talks about the day, then he talks about the night, he talks about the sky, then he talks about the earth. But at the center of all of that, what Allah says about all of these things, these opposite things, is that they understand balance. They understand, what it is, what it means to work in harmony with each other. The balance between these opposites that Allah created, the perfectness of it. And then Allah alludes to the perfectness of the soul that He created in the human. And remember, Allah has honored the human being like no other creation of His. He created this magnificent universe, this humongous, gorgeous creation of His. And He wasn't as proud as when He created Adam alayhi salam. Allah did not order the angels to do sujood to the universe. He ordered the angels to do sujood to Adam alayhi salam. And the reason for that is that the honor that He gives to Adam alayhi salam. And he alludes to the fact that the reason that I'm honoring this creation of mine is because I am very proud of it. And I'm very proud of it because I've created this being with the ability to really, really balance. And if you think about the contrast that Allah talks about in this surah, Shams, He alludes to the entire universe first and the balance that exists in the universe. And then He talks about the universe inside the human being, the heart, the qalb, the mind. And He alludes to the fact that there is this amazing ability of this human being to be able to balance between good and bad. When he moves towards bad, he comes back to good. When he starts to feel a little pressured, he starts to again move towards bad and he can bring himself back. Fujur in Arabic is actually, it means like something that can explode. It's explosive. Fujur literally means to break open, to explode. And he uses that word, like he uses it for Fajr, which is the break of dawn, when light starts to explode in the horizon, is when Fajr. He uses it in another surah, Fajrat. But in this surah, he calls it Fujuraha. And like I said, the literal translation means to the bad, the evil, the sin. But Allah is actually alluding to the fact that the human being is created, part of the human being is created in fujur. We want to explode. We want to break free. We want to, when we get angry, we want to say things that we know we're going to regret. We don't think about it. When we're happy, we want to jump in the air. We're speeding down a road and it's an open road and you have a fast car. We want to go really fast. But then there's something else in us, an awareness in us that prevents us from breaking free, that can hold it in check, that can really, kind of balance out the negative in the human being. And Allah alludes to that by the word taqwa. And we understand taqwa to be fear of Allah. It's actually, taqwa can literally translate to fear. But the more kind of expressive meaning of the word taqwa is that it means that you're aware of the fact, you're aware of the fact that you need to be in control. You're aware of the fact that there's someone watching. It can be taqwa of the law, it can be taqwa of society, it can be taqwa of your boss. But then Allah uses taqwa for Him as well, where we're cognizant that there is a Rabb, there is Allah, and He's watching our every move. And Allah says that in the Quran, that I see everything, I hear everything, I understand everything. Even the deepest, darkest secrets in your heart that even you don't know is there, I see it. That's taqwa. And so these two amazing words that Allah uses in this ayah, fujur and taqwa, literally you understand the extreme versions of the opposites that we have inside of us. The fujur that wants to break free, that really wants to just explode, but then the taqwa that is there to keep it in check. To keep it in check. Allah talks about this balance in this surah, and we really understand the kind of, the ability that Allah has given us to be able to go through trials and tribulations that Allah is going to put us. So when Allah says that I'm going to put you in trial, I'm going to put you in tribulations, you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to feel sad, you're going to feel angry, you're going to feel like, oh, there's no hope whatsoever. Everything is going to look dark, and you're going to see darkness upon darkness upon darkness, and then one after the other is just going to keep coming. And at some point, that negativeness in you has to balance out. But then where does that balance come from? That balance comes from taqwa. Part of that balance comes from taqwa. Today, though, what I really wanted to focus on, though, is two extreme versions, two extreme emotions that we have inside of us that Allah says can be overwhelming. Overwhelming to the point where even taqwa is not enough to control it. Taqwa itself is not enough to control it. So in Surah Qasas, in ayah number 10, Allah is talking about the mother of Musa alayhi salam, who is about to throw her baby into a river in a basket. Imagine what this woman is going through. This woman is being told to throw her newborn child wrapped inside a basket into a humongous river where there's waves. Now, if you know anything about the story of Musa alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam was born in a year when the army of Fir'aun was meant to come and kill the boy children, the boy kids. So the strategy that they'd made, that if we kill all the Banu Israelites, the male children, then we won't have enough workers. So economically it doesn't really make sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a rest for 1 year, and the next year we're going to kill all the babies, and the next year we're going to give it a rest, so that we have some workers that are coming in, growing up to be slaves, so that we can use them for to maintain our economy. So Musa alayhi salam's older brother Harun was born in a year where there was no killing. But then the next year Musa alayhi salam is born, and he's born in a year when killing is ongoing. So this woman, Musa alayhi salam's mother, already knows that this child that she's about to have is going to be killed. There's that very likely chance that this child is going to be killed. So imagine the fear, even during her pregnancy, when she's bearing this child, she is in a constant fear of losing this child. The fear that Allah talks about here is, fear actually has many, many words in Arabic language. And the Arabs usually have many, many words for something that they're fascinated by or they're really obsessed with. And fear was one of them for some reason. And so there's many, many words that Allah Himself uses for fear in the Quran. The fear that is being talked about here is khawf. Khawfun. And khawf literally means the fear of what's going to happen in the future. The dangers, you see signs of dangers coming, and you start to get scared. Like you see, dark clouds amassing in the sky, and you start to be scared of a storm that's upcoming. And people who live in tropical countries, what tropical storms can look like. And so when the wind starts to blow and you get that smell, those storms can be pretty intense, right? So that fear of what's coming is khawf. Or there's a tornado warning and people start to flee, right? That's khawf. That's literally people foreseeing some danger coming, and they move away or they take precautions. So Allah talks about khawf in this ayah, and this is literally what this woman is going through. She understands that her child is going to be killed, but she's bearing this child. She's a mother of this child. The fear in her, you can imagine, is intense. And then she has the child, and there's this mass killing of babies going on. And this woman realizes that she's about to see her newborn son murdered in front of her eyes. You can imagine the fear, the intense anxiety and fear that this woman is going through. And then Allah puts it in her heart, guides this woman to point where she understands that in order to save my baby, I have to throw him into the river in a basket so that these guards or the soldiers don't see him. And at this point, this woman is feeling not only extreme fear for the life of her baby, but the sadness of separation from her newborn child. The grief of having to throw her child, literally, like this is literally the better of the two evils. Either being killed by, Firaun's men, or throwing the baby into a river and taking that chance that the baby might survive. So now, when she's made that decision, you can imagine she's not only now scared, but she's intensely, intensely sad. Intensely sad. And Allah literally says in this ayah of Surah Al-Qasas, وَأَصْبَحَ فُؤَادُ أُمِّ مُوسَى فَارِغًا, that the heart of Musa alayhi salam's mother, it became, and asbaha really comes from the word misbah, or subah, which means morning or daybreak or lamp. But then the idea here, wa asbaha, is the translation of the word is it means to become, but it's a transformative becoming where the heart transforms. Fuadu, Allah uses the word fuad, which is translated in the Quran as heart. But then qalb also can mean heart. Nafs can also mean heart. Fuad is more of the emotions that this woman was feeling. From the joy of having a baby, in fear, of course, she's still scared for her baby. The joy of having a baby, to the fear of having the baby killed, to the sadness and grief of having to separate from her child at that point. Allah literally expresses all of that in one word, fuad. Ummi Musa fariga, it became empty, is what Allah said. Fariga can also mean like literally to leak out, to something that has a hole in it and it's bleeding. So her heart started to bleed in sadness. And it's an emotion that Allah portrays so beautifully in the Quran. But it's so intense. The word fariga is an intense word that Allah uses to describe this emotion that this woman is going through. So fear and grief, fear and sadness, two extreme emotions that Allah is talking about in this ayah. But then what else does He say? He says, in kadat latubdi bihi, like she was about to expose her baby. She was so sad. Once she's thrown this child into the river, she's so anxious and afraid and sad that she's about to scream out, "That's my baby. That's my baby." And had she screamed out, then the soldiers would have known that, oh, one survived, we need to go and kill it. And then Allah says something amazing. He says, لَوْلَا أَرَّبَتْنَا عَلَى قَلْبِهَا لِتَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Had we not tied her heart, Allah says, أَرَّبَتْنَا literally means to tie something that's leaking, that's letting go of all of its contents, to tie it and secure it, to strengthen it so that it no longer leaks, is what arrabat means. And it's such a beautiful word that Allah uses it. He says, had we not tied her heart, then she would have disclosed the location of her son and what happened to the baby. What are we learning from this? Allah first says that she's feeling intense fear. Allah then says, she's feeling intense sadness. And then she decides to go with the lesser of two evils. But then she's about to explode. The fujur in her is about to explode out and disclose the location of Musa alayhi salam, which would have led to his death. But then Allah says, had we not tied her heart up, then she would have. And then Allah literally ends the ayah so that she could become from among the believers, mu'mineen. So now we're learning, yes, Allah created us in beautiful balance. Yes, Allah gave us the ability to keep in check our emotions, the anger, the frustration, the sadness, the happiness, the joy, everything we can keep in check. But then there are some emotions that are so extreme, some situations that are so wild in nature that they are just too much to bear for the human being. And then literally Allah's divine help has to come down to help us navigate through those hard times. Navigate through those hard times. So my attempt today was to try and compile together a little bit of what Allah says our relationship needs to be with Him. What is that little bit that I've tried to compile here? First of all, understanding that our relationship with Allah is not one of I do good, Allah is happy, I do bad, Allah is angry. There's so much more to it. And the introduction that Allah gives is that you need to be better in deeds, so that Allah can, give you the reward that you deserve in the afterlife, in this world. That's up to Him. But then Allah says, I'm going to test you, and I'm going to test you, I'm going to test you for sure. For sure, I'm going to test you. And those trials and tribulations sometimes, and in fact, I would say, at least once in your life, you're going to go through an extreme test. A test that will, literally shake you to your core, of whether, that can be fear, that can be grief, that can be something else. But fear and grief definitely mixed in there. And you're going to need not only the balance inside you, the taqwa that I've given you, as opposed to the fujur, but also you're going to need me to help you navigate through that hard time. Me to strengthen your heart so that you can, navigate through that hard time. What are we getting from this? What are we getting from this? We are getting that no matter what, He's going to put us through trials, and there's good reason for all of that. But Allah is there. So when we ask Allah for things, when we're in a test and our tribulations, He's not going to change reality for us. And I've talked about that extensively before. He's not going to change reality around us. He's not going to, you fall into a sea, the ship has sunk, and you're literally floating on a piece of log, and you pray to Allah, Allah, just take me to land, or turn all this water into land. He's not going to do that. But if you ask Him, Allah, give me the ability to go through this trial, see it to the end. Give me the strength. Give me the taqwa that I need to be able to navigate through this hard time in my life. Then that's what Allah is going to give us. And He's going to strengthen our hearts, and He's going to help us navigate through those dark times in order so that we can come out of the other side a stronger believer. And that's how Allah, ends this ayah, so that she can become among the believers. What does Allah mean? How does Allah strengthening someone's heart with literally tying it up from grief of losing their child make them a better believer? Well, you know what? When you get to the end of the trial and you understand what it was all for, but more importantly, in the middle of all that, you understand that I have no other hope but to return back to Allah, to turn back to Allah and ask Him for His divine intervention. Ask Him for His help, is when and truly we are going to feel that closeness to Allah, that opportunity for us to get close to Allah, to really understand what it means to have a conversation with Him, really understand what it means to talk to Him, all day long. Allah, this is what I'm going through. Help me, help me, help me. But help me in what? Help me navigate through this hard time. Give me the strength. What are you gaining from that? You're gaining so much. You're gaining the ability to go through hard times. So Allah is literally strengthening you. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? You're going through that ability. Allah is making you tougher, making you stronger as you navigate through those dark times. But then Allah says at the end of it, there's reward. Give glad tidings to the patient. Give glad tidings to the people who stuck with me till the end. and said, Allah, I believe in you, and I believe that whatever you got in store for me is good for me. And he's able to show that kind of trust, that faith in Allah. The reward for that, is amazing. The reward for that is amazing. May Allah give us that ability to, understand when trials and tribulations hit us, that it's not Allah being angry with us. It's not Allah withdrawing his rahmah from us, but more often than not is Allah testing our resolve, testing whether we actually turn back to Him. And in those beautiful moments in your life, you will understand, those dark times. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. The dark times in your life can turn into the most beautiful moments of your life if you take that opportunity, take the trial not as a defeat, not as something that has come and taken away everything that you ever built, or you ever lived for, but as an opportunity for you to turn back to Allah. In all honesty, in all sincerity, turn back to Allah. Really understand who Allah is in your life and what He's meant to be in your life. And you ask Allah to give you the strength. Tie up your heart like He tied up Musa's heart, Musa's mother's heart, and help you navigate it, that trial right to the end. And at the end of it, you're not only going to get the reward, be stronger, but then the biggest reward that you get is that closeness to Allah. That closeness to Allah. And you will understand, you know what, this wasn't a trial at all. It was an opportunity. It was a breaking of a new dawn. It was new light coming, just as it does in Fajr. New light showing me what I need to be, my relationship with Allah. And may Allah give us that ability to understand, gain the hikmah from the Quran, and get to the point where Allah truly is happy with us. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Quran al Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.